this episode of About the Bible, I'm going to talk about something that's fundamental to understanding how the Bible came to be and how the text that we have came to be the text that we have. Now, this concept is a little bit unusual to people in the 21st century in societies where things are written down and the written word is the way it is. Well, that's not always been true, and it's not even true in all cultures now. Back during the time of Genesis and the time of Exodus and onward through a good part of that old ancient history, the patriarchal period, Abraham, there was a concept called oral literature, or an oral culture. And that is to say that literature of the day was passed on by one person telling someone else, and them telling someone else, and them telling someone else. And it was passed from generation to generation, and region to region, and location to location, orally. It was recited, and that tradition still continues in Judaism today, in bar and bat mitzvahs, where people coming into the age of the Jewish church, into the age of the congregation, they will recite parts of the Torah, and that oral tradition, and it's a verbatim exact recitation. It's not like that game you play where you pass it around in circles, and by the time it gets back to the end of the line, it's completely broken. The way oral culture works is more like this. I'm going to say something, and you're going to complete the thought. I want to say something, and 90%, the vast majority of people watching this video are going to use exactly the same words. And here's what I'm going to say. Little pig, little pig. Now, most of you, if you didn't say it out loud, you thought, let me come in. Little pig, let me come in. And then what does the pig reply? Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. This is how oral culture works. The oral culture was so grounded in repeating something so many times and passing it on. They didn't have TV, they didn't have books, they didn't have this was a long time before the Gutenberg press. So anything that was written by hand. Now, in another video, we're going to talk about the scribal tradition and the accuracy by which the written text was passed forward. But until it was written down, it was passed on orally. It was passed on by people saying it. If I were to say, my grandmother, what big eyes you have, and then the better to, and almost everybody who's watching this video said the better to see you with, because our oral tradition is that strong in certain aspects and certain things. Hickory dickory dock, and people say, well, it's a verse, it rhymes. We know that the mouse ran up the clock, but some of the Old Testament scripture also was written in verse, and that made it easier to pass on. And so the oral tradition is a strong way, oral literature. We're not accustomed to thinking of something that you would pass on orally as being an oral literature, but it was to the people. Now, when we talk about the first 5 books of the Bible, a lot of times we'll call those the Pentateuch, or we'll call them the books of the law. In Judaism, it would be the Torah, and those books were transmitted for a long time through the oral literature process. Now, this is important when we get to the next video. The next video is going to be who wrote the Pentateuch, who wrote the first 5 books, and we're going to talk about that. But in this video, I wanted to ground our future conversations in an understanding that oral culture and oral literature are accurate and very reliable ways of passing the accounts, passing the law, passing the news, passing the stories of the Old Testament, to pass those along. It was a very accurate, very reliable way. Just like if I were to say, she tried Mama Bear's porridge, but it was too cold. And she tried Papa Bear's porridge, but it was too hot. And she tried Baby Bear's porridge, and it was just right. So just as those are accurate ways of passing those oral literatures through our culture and our generation, the way we pass those things orally by recitation and memorization and repetition, those same things happened with the stories of the Old Testament, the stories of the Bible, particularly the first 5 books that were passed on. So the oral tradition, oral literature, very accurate, very reliable because of recitation and repetition and passing it on that way. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment, a question, a suggestion. Thank you for watching. Please sign up for notifications, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.